3712D of the Code of Virginia, it's necessary for the board to certify that since the Fairfax County School Board convened a closed meeting on September 21, 2015, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board during the closed meeting. Do I have a motion? Mr. Moon, seconded by Mrs. Schultz. All those in favor? All those in favor? Unanimous? Okay, thank you. Mr. Velkoff, call on Mr. Velkoff for a motion.
I move that the school board appoint Dr. Francisco Duran as Chief Academic Officer effective October 20th, 2015, and authorize the chairman to execute a contract reflecting this action. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. Smith. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, thank you all. Okay, if you want to... Okay. Okay. All right. Next up, we are changing our agenda around a little bit. We are at number 5 on our agenda, school board liaisons. If we could have our guests from the Park Authority and the school system come to the head of the table, we'll begin. Yeah, right. All right. Thank you, everybody, for having us. My name is John Berlin. I'm the program
Excuse me, let me just give a little bit of an introduction here. That's all right. I'm glad you're eager to join us and make your presentation. So, welcome to our friends from the Park Authority. We very much appreciate you joining us here today. And I thought I would start by giving a little bit of the background of what our presentation is about today. I was very pleased and honored last year to be the school board's liaison to the Park Authority Board. And we did a lot of good cooperating together throughout the year and throughout the year before that. We actually always do. But I wanted to start by introducing Ken Quincy, who is Park Authority Board Representative for Providence District, as well as their liaison to our board. So, and Mr. Quincy, I believe you've all seen him at our board meeting a time or two. You know, he's joined us there as well. And so, Mr. Quincy, if you would start by introducing yourself a little bit more, and also your colleagues on the Park Authority, and then come back to me for a minute. Okay.
We're not this fancy at the Park Authority. Anyway, I did get to work with Sandy on some projects, and we got to talking after this presentation that you will see that was given to our board about the number of things that we have worked together on. And it was very, I think, maybe somewhat surprising for our board to see all these things that we have been working together on, and it gives us fodder for even more joint projects. So I think you'll find this very interesting. I want to introduce Kirk Kincannon, who's our director, and I'm going to let Kirk say a few words and introduce those folks in the back, and you all know John.
They do now, don't they? So thank you, Ken, and thank you, Sandy, and school board members and chair. I certainly appreciate the opportunity here. Superintendent Garza, thank you so much for having us here. And John Berlin to my right will be making the presentation. And as Ken said, we have an incredible partnership with the school system, and we've had that for a number of years. Park Authority's been in existence for about 65 years, far less than the school system has. But we have a service to the same community. We serve the same children and the same families throughout the county. Whether it's through fields or programs or classes, the intent is to make sure that we provide the best service just as it is with you all. So I'd like to introduce my staff in the back. Cindy Walsh, who is the Division Director for the Resource Management Division. Sarah Baldwin, who is the Deputy Director, Chief Operating Officer. Kevin Williams, who is one of our kingpins as far as managing all of our operations and maintenance issues. He's one of 3 staff involved with that. So I'd like to thank them for being here today. And then also, again, thank you for this opportunity.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here with us. And of course, I want to introduce our own Bill Curran, who is Director of Student Activities and Athletic Programs. Thank you, Bill, for being here with us today as well. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Berlin.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is John Berlin. I'm the Program Branch Manager in Park Services Division. What I do is programs like classes, summer camps, aquatic and fitness centers, our events in the summer, those types of things. If any of you have seen Park Takes magazine, then pretty much you know what it's about. Thank you. And you know, that's really how this came about, because you don't have to go very far in looking at our offerings and the things that we do before you see collaboration written all over it. Just this morning, I was over at the Government Center in the County Schools Dialogue on school attendance. And in the brainstorming sessions and the breakout sessions that were going on, we could see people talking about, you know, most of the solutions to issues in the county come from collaboration between agencies, public-private partnerships, and our community partners in different ways. And this is no exception. And as we were talking about this and sharing with the board, someone came up with the idea, so maybe we should do a presentation to the board and just enumerate all the different ways that we collaborate. And I have to tell you, that was a little bit of a challenge, because as soon as you think you have the whole list down, there's more. And this is not just one-way partnerships. These are things that work together for the schools and the parks both ways, back and forth. So I put together this presentation with the help of a lot of friends that talked about some of the high-level things that we do together. So if I could, let me launch in and talk about some of the ways that we do work together. As Kirk was mentioning, you know, it's been a long partnership between the 2 agencies. Cooperation in facility development, coordinated program planning, and then a lot of things where we share common missions. A great example of that is most recently the tobacco-free play zones, where we've been able to implement that at playgrounds across the county so that our customers and the residents of Fairfax see a single message. And then also increasing cooperation in the areas of wellness and wellness programming, whether that be through healthy school lunches provided either during the school year or during the summer at many of our programs, healthy vending options, and just constantly sharing the same message that goes out to kids and the community. I'm going to focus some of the slides on these areas of cooperation: athletic fields and recreational facilities, our programs and the outreach at the schools, recreational outreach programs that we do, the school programs that are in parks, our stewardship education, and talk a little bit every now and then about emergency cooperation as well. In particular, one of the most obvious ways, we were just over there having a little chat session talking about turf fields, and always in the news, always working it out, but a great success story. I have to tell you that I'm a father of a soccer goalie who is probably the poster child of using turf fields. It's been using fields all across the county for many, many years. And it's just a fabulous development in terms of playability and time. 36 Park Authority athletic fields are used to help the schools meet the demand that they have for regular season practices, as well as when the schools are closed. We've been able to open it up for additional use as well. And the schools can meet the needs of the multiple athletic teams for their games and practices. And of course, the great outcome there is that high school students can participate in their activities simultaneously with the use of more of the fields at the same time. Contracting mowing and school field maintenance. Through the county construction dollars, the Park Authority provides contracted mowing of athletic fields at 168 elementary schools, middle schools, and other centers, covering over 450 fields. Through that, we've been able to, again, as a user, my family, we've seen the improvement in the quality of the field play, just a consistent maintenance. Everybody wins. Synthetic turf fields, like we've just talked about, in order to construct fields on school property utilizing the park bond funds, we had agreements that were signed for the development of these fields, and together the schools and the Park Authority have partnered to establish a cooperative procurement contracts for turf fields, and that just makes sense in good county government to be able to do that at these schools that you see here, and most recently ongoing here at South County Middle School. The net result of that, the outcome, is a really cost-effective development and maintenance of our turf fields countywide. I was just over this weekend at Jeb Stewart, saw the beautiful new field there, and the people who were from that school just lighting up when they saw that. The interim use agreement between the school system and the Park Authority allows the Park Authority to develop and provide park facilities on 12 properties. And this agreement has served us well because it's allowed us, it defines the areas of responsibility, the development process, the terms of agreement, and again, it's allowed for increased access to recreational amenities, specifically in some underserved areas. So this whole partnership in the development of fields and facilities has been a real win-win because, as you know, sometimes you have the asset, sometimes we have the asset, and the community really just sees it as the county. When they're looking for services. Let's shift gears and talk a little bit about some of the programs. We have a lot of recreational programs at schools. One of the reasons is our rec centers are bursting at the seams, especially during the summer months. We can't get enough space to provide. When you folks are out of school and a lot of kids are out there, we pack them in. And so working with the school system, we've been able to provide additional programming out in the public schools during the summer. One of the longest standing programs that we have is called Rec Pack. It's been around in one form or another for more than 50 years between us and other agencies. Rec Pack stands for, the PAC is Pretty Awesome Children. So if you ever wonder where that came from. But Rec Pack is really an affordable, convenient, summer structured recreation program that occurs at about 48 elementary schools throughout the county. It has a sliding scale based on family income, and so it's accessible to almost every child. As a matter of fact, more than 50% of the kids who participate in Rec Pack receive a scholarship to attend, and almost 75 to 80% received reduced fees. So it's really meeting a need in the community. And these are children, as we were talking about this morning with the problems of truancy and out of school time, it's really meeting the needs of kids who don't have the resources to get to wherever they want to go. They need to be in their own communities. They need a safe place to be during the summers. And Rec Pack has helped provide that by us being able to be in the school system. And we're able to just continue that relationship where those kids have with the local school throughout the summer as well. Some of the ways that we've cooperated in doing the summer Rec Pack is that sometimes, depending on what's happening with summer school, we've been able to have drop-off sites from school buses. We'll drop kids off at a Rec Pack site. So for a family, they're able to get their child in summer school and then drop them off directly to a Rec Pack site where they'll have continuous care for the rest of the day. And between the two systems, we've been able to provide a solution for families. That's been a great initiative when we can work that out logistically. And also, we've been working collaboratively for a number of years now with the Energy Zone, who provides our USDA free lunch program at schools. That has been a fabulous addition. Kids are getting breakfast and lunch ready to start the day. It's really worked out very well. The quality of the meals has been super. The kids are wanting to stuff things in their pockets and take it home and all of that. They like it so much. But so this has really helped us to provide that service to families where there's a tremendous need out there in the county. Summer camps, the other side of what we do during the summer is in our rec centers, our nature centers, and in a lot of other places, including schools, where we provide summer camp programs. So about not quite half of our participants during the summer are in Rec Pack. The other half of things is through all these other locations like our rec centers and nature centers where they take programs. So these are summer programs, and then year-round, the programs that you see in Park Takes magazine are all offered for a fee, and kids are able to take these classes, and we try to provide them throughout the county and make them as convenient as possible for people to get to. So oftentimes we're trying to schedule them outside of the rec center in the area around there using the nearby public schools. And I think the school board would agree with me that it's a real advantage. The communities increasingly are seeing the schools as a center of activity, not just for education, but also for community use. And the schools have really stepped up to that challenge and partnered with us to be able to provide additional access like that when our own facilities are full. Also, one of the things that happened more recently, I know that the schools have done some changes to the adult and community education program. The ACE program, which retooled some things to focus mostly on their core mission and what they were doing, proactively got together with the Park Authority and thought ahead to say, we're going to be changing some things, but we don't want to have a negative impact to the customers out there. So could we look at our lines of business and what we do and maybe pass some of these programs and instructors on to you, and you can continue to provide that service while we go in our primary mission direction. And we've done that over the past year or two, and many of these programs that might have otherwise gone away have remained for citizens in the county, and I think it was a very effective opportunity for us to work together in providing those types of classes. Transportation. FCPS, you're my hero, because sometimes during the summer, and we're sending kids all over the place. When we don't have room at a rec center, we might want to transport the kids to a nearby facility like a public school or someplace else. We have adventure camps that take kids rock climbing and all sorts of things. Parents trust the school system and their buses, and we find that that's a natural, especially when you're dealing with kids who come from different cultures, who may have other language issues. When they see the yellow school bus, they know that that's something that they can trust. And collaboratively, that's been a great solution for us as well. And I'm told on the other side that it's really helpful at times to employ the bus drivers during the summer so that you can hold on to them for the school year. So that is just one of the pieces that you wouldn't think as a partnership, but is really going on behind the scenes. Throughout the year, this is just us taking our dog and pony show on the road. We're constantly out there at the invitation of schools to present the opportunities that we provide to the public, especially during the spring as the school liaison officers are trying to find things for their kids for the summer. We're out there letting them know about the opportunities that are available, doing booths, distributing flyers. We even come to the new teachers orientation and try to provide every teacher with a welcome packet and a copy of Park Takes so they can see all of the opportunities that are there for them, especially the ones that might be new to the area. In here, you'll find resources on things like the free summer concert series. We have 200 free concerts all over the county that you can be a part of and families can take advantage of, as well as all of the classes and activities. Shared messaging. This is one of my favorites because we know the development of programs, for example, one was Character Counts. You know, as each of the schools developed their own pillars for character, our Rec Pack staff would partner with the schools to identify their particular focuses on character development and try to reinforce those same values during the summer program so that when the kids were hearing a message, they were hearing a consistent message between the school system and the Park Authority year-round. And then when they go back in during the fall, they've been receiving some of that same information. So, of course, if you ever see Rec Pack, you'll notice Buddy the Wolf. He's our mascot with an anti-bullying message that I think will be consistent with the things that the schools are presenting as well. Big area of cooperation between us is the use of Park Authority athletic fields and facilities to help the schools meet the needs of their various sports team tryouts, practice meets, matches, and tournaments. Listing here between swim and dive, golf, cross country, tennis. We have early season use for multiple teams, softball that helps us with the Title IX compliance. Schools are finding that they can accommodate the need for more facilities simultaneously. At the same time, on our end, we're minimizing the impact of this additional use on our customers. The most recent example of that is trying to figure out what we're going to do with later start times and getting kids in to be able to swim in our facilities, which has been a challenge for years, and really working in the details now of how we make that happen. But Bill and his team have collaboratively met with us for months and months and worked out the details of schedules to make this work. So we all have our fingers crossed with a lot of good planning behind it. One of the realities of that is just we kind of remind people wherever we go that the Park Authority is a little different than many government agencies. I realized that this morning in our partnership meeting when we were talking about attendance, school attendance, that many people don't realize that unlike most government agencies, much of the Park Authority's funding comes from revenue funds. We actually take in money when people buy passes and pay for classes, and that's the money that pays our bills for everything. In the operation of many of our facilities like our rec centers. So it is important to us that people would understand that as over time as the tax support dwindles, we've seen park use continue to increase and the demand for services continue to increase. And this just shows you a little graph over time of the contribution from the general fund towards the Park Authority has really been cut in half over that time period. And it means that we have to continue to rely even more on revenue in order to pay our bills. And so we are constantly monitoring fees as different sources to make our programs happen. And I believe that, in the wisdom of the people who set up our system, one of the reasons why it works so well is because we have big and beautiful facilities, but they're also very, very well loved. We've just completed our needs assessment, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more information about that. And what it says is that park use is higher than ever before, and people love their parks, and they're using them to death. So we have all the issues that I know that the schools are facing with facility maintenance and constantly upgrading, and then that's going to continue into the future as we figure out ways to collaborate to get all of our needs done. This is a real fun one because I've been through this as a dad a couple of times, the all-night graduation parties. The Park Authority, in collaboration with Project Graduation, hosts the alcohol-free celebrations for graduating seniors at our rec centers in the spring, with combined attendance of over 3,500 graduates. The Park Authority waives the facility rental fee and costs associated with the staff hours, contributing more than $70,000 towards this project. For any of you who have a high school senior going through this, you know how valuable it is to know where they're going to be all night long. And the schools that come around and put on these are fabulous events, just really top drawer type of activities. And we're proud to be able to partner with you to host those. The outcome, I always thought this was an amazing feat, that no alcohol or drug-related accident or death in Northern Virginia on graduation night at fully participating schools since 1987. And that's a statistic that we can be proud of a partnership. Let me switch gears because many of you know that the Park Authority really has a dual mission. In addition to the recreation programs that we're talking about, we're also very invested in protecting our natural and cultural resources. And the message of stewardship is one that we've been charged to deliver to our citizens and to the upcoming generation of students, so they'll be good stewards in the future of everything that we have to offer. We've been partnering with the school system Get to Green initiative and assisting to train teachers in surface learning. In support of your Green Schools initiative, our Resource Management Division works with teachers at schools that adjoin the parks. We train teachers about the ways that they can use the parks and engage their students in their studies and community service. This is just an example, one of the pictures of one of those collaborations. So we're getting teachers to be able to use those facilities that are literally at their back door, and then they're able to more effectively demonstrate to kids and get them involved. It's really a great collaboration. We have programs both at school locations and at park locations. Every year, the Park Authority works directly, specifically in the areas of science and history, to help teachers use the parks as classrooms so that they can meet the standards of learning requirements. RMD staff meets annually with your curriculum specialists to work out those things that we can provide and provide well, in addition to planning on field trips. At the schools, each year our staff conduct hundreds of outreach programs at school sites where our staff go there And again, at nearby parks, one of the programs that we do are the MIWI programs, the Meaningful Watershed Educational Experiences. Great opportunity for really hands-on learning for kids to learn about their environment and what it means to be a good steward of our resources that we have. A great outcome from all of this is over 30,000 kids visit their parks annually through school field trips that come to be a part of this partnership with the SOLs and field trips that we're doing. So again, we're raising another generation of kids collaboratively who will know how to take care of the resources that they have. And then lastly, a great opportunity for these kids here, Diggin and others, is that we provide community service opportunities. We love to have volunteers in our parks. Our system runs on them. Kids really have great opportunities to do that through special events. They love to take care of animals. That's something they just love to do, even slimy little ones. So they love that, and the babies at Frying Pan Park and all those sort of things. But then there's the invasive management work that they do in the IMA projects, where they learn that there are species that are planted that are taking over some of our parks, and they can be a part of the solution, and they go out and help us with that as well. Students give more than 12,000 volunteer hours annually to us. So we want to be that host location for your kids to do those things that they need to do as a part of your curriculum. Moving forward, just in summary, we've covered a lot of ground real quickly at a high level, but I'm sure that the Park Authority and the Fairfax County Public Schools will continue to strengthen our long-standing relationships together of continued cooperation, particularly in the areas of continuing this linking together of the need for providing opportunities for SOL support, where we can do that best, to improve the playing conditions on our fields and provide cooperative opportunities to maximize the use when it's needed at peak times, and to expand the schools to reach more people in the community for recreational programming around all the things that are going on in the schools already as well. So this back and forth that we're constantly doing is really serving our citizenry real well. And a few people pointed out that when we go out and hear about things coming back from conferences, we realize that people see Fairfax County as a model of collaboration between the schools and their local parks and rec. It's not always that way everywhere you go. So this was eye-opening for me. I hope that it's given you some new information as well. Just the variety and the number of partnerships that we share together. And we truly thank the Fairfax County School Board for all that you do to help support your parks as well. And we hope we've been a good partner with you. Look forward to more in the future.
Thank you so much, Mr. Berlin. I wanted to give Mr. Curran an opportunity to talk with us a little bit about this collaborative effort from our point of view.
As Mr. Berlin laid out, we do a tremendous amount of work with the Park Authority. At the specifically with the level of activities and athletics that we do, it's constant. Probably one of the biggest challenges we faced was the swim schedule. I think a lot of you were waiting for me to tell you, yes, we're good. I can remember in the back in the fall, winter of last year. Do you have it yet? No, but we're working on it. And it took a great deal of work, both from the staff on their end and the staff on our end, with people who were actually our user groups. We brought in some of our coaches and those folks to sit down with the rec center managers and the aquatics people, and really were able to work out the detail oriented around the shift in the bell schedule and what that would look like. Once the bell schedule was finalized, we were able to move forward, sat back down, and we were good to go in March with some fairly small tweaks to the overall programming of it. The reality is I hear the same, both on a local and national level, with regards to our working with the fact that we can work in a pretty good environment with our parks. That is not the same. You don't have to go far beyond our borders of Fairfax County to talk to folks where there is no relationship, where it does not cross boundaries, where they do not share resources. And in all those aspects, we're fortunate to be able to work the way we do with our counterparts at the Park Authority and the things that we have. It's a good working relationship. We often sit at the Athletic Council meetings, and I sit with Todd Johnson, and usually in an hour we're working out the details of some things we might need to cover on a monthly basis, and that goes pretty well. So we're fortunate.
Thank you very much. I do have some board members who have comments and questions. I'm going to start with Mr. Stork.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. I concur with all the comments I've made about the relationship and the importance of school and Park Authority working well together. And since I've been on the board, I think that's always been the case. I know we've looked at other options to kind of further, I guess, grow and kind of improve the opportunities for students to be part of and essentially better understand what the Park Authority does, and even to kind of, if you will, build a junior ranger type of program, an internship service hours kind of program. That's something we had worked on about 10 years ago. And some of the older board members might remember that. It never really quite came together. I don't know if that was a school issue or a park issue, or probably both of us. We just got busy and didn't go on. But can you just briefly at least speak to what, if any, either relationships by individual schools or any kind of collective relationship or program that you have to get our students to either donate service hours or make park activities part of the service hours, or anything more formal that you do to try to encourage or develop we have certifications in a lot of areas, including really almost every area you can imagine for future career opportunities. And that's one of those things that I know it's going to continue to grow in terms of the amount of time and effort that we spend and offer for recreational support. So maybe I have a ton of questions, but that's the most important one I wanted to get out there, and I'll have maybe one or two others if I have time.
So specifically some examples of partnerships between schools?
Well, if we have any kind of global process for that, I
have colleagues here who can weigh in if they'd like to share, but a lot of the work is really done teacher by teacher with contacts. When there's an initiative in an area, they will take the initiative with our staff, and then we'll put together some type of project around their school. These initiatives that we talk about with the Get to Green, as well as mentoring teachers to show them how to use the parks, is really something that we try to do across the board as much. But there are specific examples, like a good example I used on the slide was Fred Crabtree Park, which is near Crossfields, where they had 18 service hours one year, and they'll have 118 by the end of the next year, because people have worked together. So that's the type of thing that happens. And I'm told from people who are doing most of that it really depends on initiative on both sides. That when you have a teacher who wants a better learning experience, they'll seek out advice, and our folks are ready to come out and help and to do that as well. So
that's my kind of awareness of it as well. And I guess really what I'm asking is maybe, is there not some value, is there not some opportunity we have here to making that a much more global, much more kind of formal engagement system-wide, which obviously it still maybe interprets or still goes back to the local high school, middle school, even elementary school level, but maybe looking at that as an initiative that would be a win-win. Obviously, your budgets are getting cut, our budgets are getting cut, and we have students who, frankly, need opportunities to get service hours, as well as to learn more about kinds of career tracks or opportunities that might be of interest to them.
Absolutely. I think Cindy Walsh is the director of the Resource Management Division who's here. You can chime in if you know of other opportunities, but this would be the type of thing I'm sure that we could put on the discussion when we're meeting with the curriculum specialists in the different departments to talk about formalizing that more across the system. I think that's been a great first step, that we've been doing this now for years, but trying some additional collaboration, some more specific volunteer opportunities where it's a matter of information, of knowing where they can come into our system, do the volunteer hours, do that. It sounds to me like a little bit of coordination that we could do. So maybe I could put that on the list too for us on the next meetings.
I'm really highlighting the opportunity, and I particularly want to give my former colleague credit for really initiating the idea, again, about 10 years ago. I don't know, but Phil Najelski-Eichner kind of brought that to, we had a conversation about it as a board, and actually the Park Authority and school boards had conversations about it, but again, it's among all the other things we did, it didn't quite get taken to the next level. And I know with all of our budget cut challenges that we have, and if there's services and much like docents at museums, we have, I think, opportunities to maybe further leverage the interest and passion and the volunteer spirit that we want to inculcate in our students, and that seems like an opportunity that we can maybe do some more with in the future.
Good.
I want to also thank my Park Authority Representative Linwood Gorham. I think he's done a great job advocating on behalf of Mount Vernon folks, and obviously the turf fields and other things that we've been able to do there recently are I think really will make a huge difference in the community. So I thank you all for that. I have plenty of other questions, but my last question, then if there's time, I'll go back, is I get this all the time in the community, and I'm sure others do as well. They walk on a field of a school and say, well, the schools aren't doing this or that, and what's going on. And I say, well, in general, I say usually it's the Neighborhood Community Services, NCS, who's responsible, right? And then some of them are also Park Authority. I can never figure out, frankly, which is which. And then you add on top of that the Regional Park Authority. I don't know what until recently, I frankly didn't even know really how that all fit together. So I don't know if there's any shorthand that we can use to tell people that these are always Park Authority, these are always NCS, these are always regional folks. Is there anything that you can use to help us have to translate for folks who ask us those kind of questions?
We can certainly look at that, and I think, as you noted, NCS does all the scheduling for the community fields, whether they're Park Authority fields or the school fields, and I think they have a partnership with Northern Virginia Regional Park Authority, or Nova Parks now. And there are some fields, obviously, that are not wrapped into that community system. They're generally the smaller areas that are, probably, I won't say out of the way, because no fields are out of the way, but it's the ones that really don't meet some of the standards. It's more open play areas. But we'll certainly look at that, and there may be a way to sit down with Chris Leonard at NCS and talk about how do we get a common message out.
Or maybe some signage for
Right.
all. I mean, for all of our sake. I mean, obviously the schools should be part of it, but to do that, and I know in fact, when we did the smoking piece of it, I think that was part of my education on that, as to how that all fit together. But even I think to let the community better know how the use is provided and who's kind of responsible for what, and if you can summarize it in something that could be put on a relatively small sign, I think it would help us all better direct and guide people to where they can go if they have, a compliment or a complaint that they want to offer. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tork. I have Ms. McLaughlin, followed by Mrs. Strauss.
First, I want to express my appreciation as a parent. I just had 2 boys graduate in the last 2 years, so I've done the all-night grad parties. And not having grown up in this area, I will say it is incredible for us parents to know how safe our children are. It's sad across the country when we lose young graduates on that particular night. And to see such a high percentage of participation among our graduates in an area that is safe, is non-alcoholic, they really have a chance to celebrate their accomplishments. And for parents, we are very bleary-eyed when we wander out of there at about 4 o'clock in the morning, but we know we've helped to keep kids safe. So thank you for your partnership with that. I also want to say it's very nice to see Ken here. I had the pleasure of working with Ken and Bill on the Synthetic Turf Task Force, and I just wanted to share with my colleagues that 10 months that we worked together, where we brought the Park Authority, the county, and the schools together in that large working group, really helped to, I think, strengthen that sort of goal of partnership. We're all struggling to get the funding we need. And I think I earned a lot of friends on the Park Authority when I started pitching the Penny for Parks. That's really where we need to go in this county, because I think without question you are all deeply valued by this county, what the Park Authority offers its residents. So I, for one, continue to be a huge fan and really do think that a penny for parks and a penny for schools might go a long way when we're trying to help the community understand when we need to increase funding, what is it for? And I think they're both very important. So I will just say that the work that we do together, when we continue to spend that time together and to know that it is with a shared goal, and it's not about competing against each other for resources, and that we continue, our role with FCPS to promote and talk about the value of the Park Authority. That helps everybody feel like we're part of the same team, So great work, gentlemen, and I appreciated you breaking it down for us, all the different things where we're really working together and improving this county.
Thank you. Mrs. Strauss?
This was really a lovely presentation, and every time that we've had to put together collaborative groups between the school board, the board of supervisors, looking for efficiencies, partnerships, all the rest of that, we always look very carefully at how we coordinate with the park authority so that we really have a culture of working together. And you're right, most of the other jurisdictions across the United States do not do this. So we are extremely efficient and effective in this partnership. So I think we're all very grateful for that. And I think even down to the level of, I was very pleased when you talked about how you work out kids who are in rec pack and in summer school, and how you work out at the staff level transportation so the kids are really taken care of during the day. That is the essence of success, where your staff takes the time to make sure that every single child is taken care of when they're in your care. And that just speaks a whole lot to how much your staff works and how well all of this works together. So it's wonderful. Also the fact that when teachers come to you with an idea, you're open to figuring out, okay, how can we use the park that's right next to you? So it is that openness and willingness to continue to take whatever resource, whatever passion or idea presents itself. Well, let's see what we can do with it. And this really is the mark of a good partnership. The last interesting piece, when we were trying to put together all-night grad parties in the 1980s, I'm old enough, I was there, and the tough nut to crack was always the insurance policy. And we had several goes at the insurance policy, but when park authorities stepped up and would collaborate, that was a huge breakthrough because you were able to shoulder and help with that the insurance piece. So that was wonderful, and it was taking a risk, but you did it. So thanks.
I will say that I've worked with teenagers for a long, long time. I know where they go. So it's always interesting in the all-night grad party to see if there's any holes where they might get off to. But the culture has become one that it's an event they look forward to. And they begin not to try to circumvent that, but make it their own. And so that's why I think it's been so successful, along with many hours by parents all year long.
You all were willing to take on the liability, and that was the piece that made all of this work. So that was great. You trusted the kids, and you trusted your own staff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Strauss. Mr. Press?
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Just echo the sentiments of many of the board members who've spoken on this. The all-night grad, as a student, having spoken with people who have gone through that, I mean, they're just so impressed because many people are so quick to jump on. I don't want to go to a school-sponsored event. I don't want to go to a county-sponsored event. I want to go do my own thing. But at the end, the quality of service that you all provide is, I mean, just blows anything away that they could put together. So, and of course, the safety statistics are so impressive. I mean, all those years without a single drug or alcohol-related incident is just, I mean, that really is so impressive. So, thank you all for helping to keep my peers safe. I can't express that gratitude enough. When I hear about these initiatives, I can't help but think of our Portrait of a Graduate program and how this feeds into that. It's building us responsible individuals in the sense that they're not only responsible for themselves, but they feel this sense of responsibility for the well-being of their community and the natural community. And as someone who, has a passion for environmental issues and the outdoors, that is so valuable because people are really beginning to appreciate the depth of the challenges that we face as a community. And I'd like to take a moment to just mention, an example from my own life of how these programs have had an impact. I remember in 7th grade life science, we took a field trip out to a watershed and we studied the ecosystem. And I knew a young lady who, the year before me, did that, was so inspired by it. She's now majoring in environmental science, and just because of that one thing, it built a passion. It struck something inside of her that she's going on now to major in that and wants to have a career in it. So, in real-world terms, the impact that these programs are having are absolutely incredible. So my question for you all is that, we've had an incredible level of service between our two organizations for, many years now. But with our increasing enrollment and increasing county population and declining funding on both ends, how can we work together to maintain this level of service and this quality of service that we've had?
That's a great question. I think that's the question of the next decade, and probably for the last decade. It really comes down to the collaboration and looking at innovative ways to work together on efficiencies and effectiveness and reaching the community. Obviously, we're dealing with multiple spectrums as to the school board and the park authority, both in the growth in the community and also in the growth and diversity in the community, both economically, socially, internationally. It's a tremendous challenge, but it's very exciting, frankly. And I think it has created innovation amongst both staffs to look at ways to seek these partnerships and opportunities. I think, as we look for ways to expand our internship program and bring more FCPS students into the program, we had, I think, a handful this year that came into our system, probably a dozen or so out of the 80 or more volunteers that came in through the summer. And I think as we look at opportunities like that, it not only educates us on what's important from the school's perspective, but also educates the community on what's important from the community perspective related to the environment and then community service and public service. And I think, again, I think the way to the future and through the future is absolutely through partnerships and collaboration. We've really, as much as we're doing, we really have just touched the tip of the iceberg. Over the next several years, I think you'll see a lot more innovation and creativity in how we work together effectively. And we're very excited, and I know our staff is excited about reaching and looking for further opportunities. So that's a great comment, and I appreciate the question.
If I could, let me just follow up one thing, just a specific example of that, and use that as a shout out to Amy Craig back there in the Office of Community Use of Schools, was that she has worked long, long hours, diligently put up with us in order to provide opportunities. So every year, for example, is the Summer Rec Pack program. Every year, we're trying to figure out how are we going to serve these kids with little means throughout the summer when their resources and their support systems are a little bit scattered. And we come almost all the time with a list of the schools, top to bottom, who are the highest percentage of free and reduced lunch, the lunch list, free and reduced price meals list. And we ask for those schools all the time because we desperately want kids to have something that's accessible nearby. And Amy's got to juggle everything, the whole thing. But she's always never loses sight of the common mission that we have to serve these kids and really goes out of her way to do whatever she can and balancing all the needs of the school system at the same time. And the end result is I can't change the demographics or control them, but we respond to them. And that's only happened through this type of collaboration where we have the program, you guys help put it in front where the people are to make it work. And I just see that continuing.
I'll add one comment in response to your question, Ben, is our reliance on volunteers. The Park Authority without volunteers, I'm not sure we'd be able to accomplish a whole lot. And it benefits the community in that they're becoming involved in what's going on. A perfect example, one I'm very acquainted with, is the IMA project. Our investment in the IMA project, dollar-wise, is somewhat dwarfed by the dollar value of the volunteer contribution. Without the volunteers, that particular project, a very important project, probably wouldn't exist. So the reliance on volunteers, because of all our budget constraints, yours and ours, is becoming increasingly important.
Thank you. I think Dr. Garza had a comment as well.
Yes, first of all, thank you for recognizing our team. Amy and Bill are just wonderful examples of, what great people we have in FCPS. And we really do value our opportunity to work with you all, not only Park Authority, but other aspects of the county. I was going to talk a little bit about Portrait of a Graduate and how there are some, seem like some logical opportunities for us to partner, but you put it so well, I'm not even going to go there. I was curious, though, because I was at a recent meeting where someone brought up a bridge. You remember that, the bridge that it needed some work or something? So, first of all, I was curious, how many acres do we have in terms of park land in the county? I'm just curious.
So thank you for the question, Superintendent Garza. We have a little over 23,000 acres of parkland that we manage and maintain. That is encompassed within 425 parks and about 70 managed or staffed park sites throughout the community of Fairfax.
That's amazing. And how much do you get on an annual basis for capital improvements?
I think, I think it's probably less than $10 million. I'm
Something
looking
around $10 million?
at Sarah back there. Is that about right? About $10 million from capital, maybe less? Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious. There was a issue of a bridge. Some of you were there with me. So 23,000 acres. Well, thank you. I appreciate that information.
Thank you.
Quite large enterprise.
That's about 10% of the land in Fairfax County.
And All right. having come from another part of the country, the parks here are just beautiful. And they are very well, I have noticed that people do take advantage of the parks in all of our communities. And I think that was, in many ways, I think what defines us as communities, right, are the parks and our schools and where people get to congregate. So we thank you for the partnership.
Mrs. Reed.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Thank you for the presentation. I think you can see that we're also very excited to have you here and appreciate the presentation, and it just makes me think of so many possibilities, and that's so exciting. So I'm hopeful that this will be the start of some dialogues and some brainstorming. I did want to acknowledge Ken Quincy and the work that we've done together over the years, the partnership that we have, and in your list of activities, one thing that you didn't mention is Eagle Scout projects, and that's one that just this past year a student came to me and had a project, and then sure enough, Ken stepped in and with the staff was able to work hand in hand with him to get that accomplished. And so that was yet another opportunity for our students to really make a difference and for our partnership to really go full circle. So thank you for that, Ken. I wanted to ask a few questions. One is the turf field. Early on in the presentation, there was a comment about bond money, and I wanted to understand, do you use any bond money for your portion of the turf field projects?
So we have, I guess, the bond that we're into right now, which is 2012, there are specific projects in there related to installing turf fields. One of them specifically and most recently is the one at South County School, where we partnered with FCPS to install, I think, 2 additional fields in addition to what the schools are providing. So yes, we use bond money for that. Okay,
so that's a question, I guess, for another day, is why do we have money set aside in the operating fund? They're kind of doing sidebarring right now. I don't want to hold the conversation, but I'd like to understand that
Certainly.
better. If there is a possibility to use bond fund for the turf fields and not take it out of our operating funds, I would certainly love to discuss that another time.
And I do think that requires maybe some further discussion. I do know that the commitment out of year-end was not only demonstrated by us, but it also was demonstrated by the county in their year-end analysis. Excuse me, the 1.5 commitment.
Right.
This sounds like it was beyond that.
Right, right. But yeah, so here we're still talking possibilities. So we can always learn from each other. And in terms of other partnership ideas, I'm very interested in your facilities in particular. And I wondered if anybody has ever thought about whether or not you would have availability for something like a pre-K class or a SAC after school, because as you know, yeah, I know they have some of those, but I mean to a greater extent, since we have waiting lists and we have capacity challenges in our schools, might that be an area that we could explore further?
I would certainly see that as an opportunity for discussion. I know, like schools, we're busting at the seams, so I think potentially in any future facility development, that's something that we certainly should look at.
But during the days now, are you pretty full with your other user groups?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very, very well used.
Darn. I also had looked at the Portrait of a Graduate, and we've all kind of, I think, gone to that as, again, another area of possibility and resource stewardship and maybe more projects. I mean, I think of the Finance Park project and what a hands-on, wonderful project that is, and maybe one day we could do something like that with the Park Authority where it would be something that all of our kids could benefit from. It always worries me when we have this, well, if the teacher takes the initiative and takes the time, and we all know our teachers are already way maxed out, and in particular the area of science, our teachers, I think, could really use the help with some already developed curriculum or facilities or staff, or Ken, if it's volunteers, that might be able to partner with our teachers, either to go someplace or to come in and help. I view that as a real area of opportunity as well. And then the last thing that I'll mention quickly, because I know we have lots to cover here today still. You mentioned the meals provided to the kids in the summertime. And that, to me, raises the larger question about, what about other times? And this, again, in terms of potential opportunities, both snow days, holidays, we always get these anecdotes. Our kids, don't get food, or the anecdote, the parents both have to go to work, and so they drop the kids off at the local library. And so those, I guess, I just wondered if anyone else has ever put those up as areas of possibility where we might be able to coordinate to better serve our most neediest students and families.
Well, one of the things, the limitations are rec centers in particular, and most of our facilities don't have kitchen facilities, that sort of thing dedicated. They also are serving multiple age groups simultaneously, adults doing all sorts of different things, so it's a little awkward. One of the reasons that we don't offer the free and reduced lunch program in our rec centers during the summer is because of that, both because of we don't believe that's the target population that needs it there, but also because of the other users in the facility coming through at the same time. But absolutely something that can be discussed about better using our joint county facilities, for a variety of different things. But that's always the juggling act. They get you.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. And Mrs. Schultz, who is our new liaison to the Park Authority Board. So
one of the questions I had, well, first of all, I am a senior mom this year. I was taking the money for the senior back to school or all-night grad party where I'm going to be a blackjack dealer, and I wish it was going to be in one of your facilities. It's not. It's not going to be one of my favorite facilities, but so I'm seeing on the ground, and I was amazed at the turnout for seniors. So thanks for helping keep our seniors safe. Not our seniors, our senior students. Hi, Chihuahua. Are there any metrics by which you all are looking at comparable counties in the country in terms of that kind of sad ski slope of that funding line? Is this something that's similar on par with other municipalities around the country? Has anybody else found innovation in municipal governance of parks and schools and county services?
I would imagine, especially given the recession, I know having come from Boulder, Colorado, and prior to that I was in Alexandria when the recession hit. So I think the slide that occurred over the last 8 years is pretty much nationwide, absolutely. And I think the successful agencies, the successful school systems are the ones that partnered early and continue to partner. And as the comment was noted, when I was down in Wythe County, Virginia, which is in southwest Virginia, there was a dichotomy between the school system and the park system that was not very conducive to partnership building. But we worked on it over 5 years, and we were able to attain that. So I think one of the things that we should continue to look at is with the declining or slowing revenue that's coming in from the county's perspective is ways to create those partnerships. I don't know if there's any magic benchmark that's out there, but we certainly do compare ourselves to our jurisdictions and our benchmark cities like you all do, looking at where those dollars go, and then also look at efficiencies. Where can we partner? Where can we find opportunities to work more collaboratively together?
Okay, you just said the magic word, efficiencies. So, one of the things, there was a decision made in the ancient times of jurisdiction management and governance in Fairfax County that we weren't going to have pools with our schools. And we can't recover from the decision of the past, but, you do look at, just because we've always done it that way, do we not add some innovation and, inventiveness as we look at, potentially a Western Fairfax high school. If we don't start talking early, I think whenever it does happen, we'll be past the opportunity. So the notion of having a collective campus around all the services and that you build on those efficiencies is something that I hope sort of starts to embed in all of our minds on the county side, on the park side, on our side, that, a campus could be, an elementary school, middle school, high school, a pool, a rec center, intergenerational services, so that, we keep seniors here and work seniors into the education and even care of our students. That's like kind of, the hope that is a salvation potentially for parks by capitalizing on that. Teddy Roosevelt's probably my favorite president, maybe. I won't testify to that, but because of some of the resource protection that he took. And so I'm hoping that everybody keeps on that, on a way of doing business in the future, the business of parks and schools and education and the county services. So,
Ms. Derenak Kovacs?
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank you for your presentation. Also, I do want to chime in from a parent's perspective. I think I have a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old, and from the time they were little, I think we've taken advantage of every opportunity that the Park Service allows and provides for, and it is a wonderful partnership. When I sit on the school board now and realize the many things that we do together and the potential that's out there, I am very grateful for this dialogue today. I do want to chime in one thing that I hope we can, because Mr. Stork had alluded to, it's been something that's been talked about before, but the volunteer opportunities for children. I know as a parent of a high school student, and often and someone who's currently running for a campaign, people ask me for volunteer because it's hard for some. I think some schools do it better than others, is to allow kids who need community service hours. But I think the parks are a natural, the centers. And if that dialogue can get started and we can kind of filter that information into the career centers and the counselors in our schools, because, again, I think some of the kids who have excellent skill sets can be TAs in some of the classes. They can work their own, particularly some of the athletes can help with some of the sports camps for the younger kids. So, of course, that's just some ideas, off the top of my head. I'm sure you have much better ones than that. But I think that's one that if we can grab a hold of in the short term would be great for our kids in high school, as well as, helping you in some ways.
Not seeing anyone else, I'll take a turn here. And I just want to say how much I've enjoyed working with all of you on the Park Authority Board in the last couple of years that I've been the liaison from our board to your board. It's been very gratifying to see some of the collaboration that we've done with, whether it was with tobacco-free play zones, or one thing that wasn't mentioned was cricket. Yes, Mr. Quincy and Mr. Kahn brought that to us, and we've created the first cricket after-school program at Luther Jackson Middle School, and I'm anxious to hear how that's going as the school year gets going, and see if we can extend that to other after-school programs. I thought that was a marvelous addition to our list of sports that we have in our schools. I also want to, of course, thank you. The Later Start Time initiative from this board was a major wellness initiative. You mentioned wellness at the beginning of your presentation. That's been very important to our high school students, for them to get more sleep. And I very much appreciate you working together. I know that took a lot of work to work out the swim schedules and the sports schedules. As Mrs. Schultz alluded to, when the decision was made years ago not to put pools in the schools, we determined that the rec centers would be the home of the high school swim teams, and the Park Authority has been our partner ever since that time. So I appreciate you working as hard as you did to make everything mesh and work. I did have just a couple of questions, actually. I had a teacher come to me one time and say, she wanted to do a field trip at the parks, and she was wondering if there was some central place she could go to determine
where she could take an entire class, an entire third grade. And is there such a place? I mean, do we have something where the school system and the park authority says, okay, you want to go to a park, here's the program that we have? And if not, maybe we should have something like that. It seemed like a reasonable thing at the time.
That's a great question. I'm actually going to defer to Sarah and Cindy, and you guys can respond to that question since you've been here just a few more years longer than me.
If someone were to call the main number of the park authority and the person that answers if someone called the main number of the park authority and were interested in some type of activity, generally the person that answers the phone would direct them to our resource management division, and there the staff in the division would ask them questions about where they're located, what they're looking for, and then direct them to the appropriate staff.
Okay. I wonder if that would be an opportunity to have something on a website someplace where people could easily go and look for that. I know when my daughter was little, we kept going to the zoo. Not that there's anything wrong with the zoo, but it seemed like that was just the easiest thing for them to do. So we went to the zoo, and there were probably other opportunities closer to home. So again, I want to thank you so much for joining us here today and for all the work that you've done with us. And I know we're going to continue having a great collaboration with the Park Authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need time, or can we move to the next? 2 minutes? Okay, please don't go anywhere. Thank you very much, you all, for helping us out.